Evening, 11:17, January 2nd, 1877. Earlier I saw the Count dragging Heidi and Ida down the halls. It was surprising because not only was he involving two people, but Macher had just gotten done with performing for his guests not too long before. When I tried to see what was happening, he pushed me into a nearby cupboard and placed a small table in front of the knob to keep me from further interruption. After some time, Frida found me and let me out, as I had been slamming my body against the entrance to try budging my obstacle. I immediately proceeded to look around for my daughter, until finally I saw her exiting from the study, the Count following closely behind her. I ran to her and cried out, "Heidi, I found you." I wrapped my arms around the girl and took notice that Ida was no longer with them, and how Heidi had this absolutely disturbed look pasted onto her face.
"What did you do to her and that maid?"
In a very dead and aggravated tone, Heidi said,
"Get your filthy hands off of me, you whore. I've handled worse."
"Something happened tonight. I don't have a clue, but whatever it is, it clearly has affected my daughter. There's something new within Heidi's eyes. She is shaken by the actions that came to pass. What did my child experience?"
1, 2, 77, 11 o'clock night. I had just been with Ida. I had just been receiving her comfort after a performance. I had just been laying in her arms. I had just been whispering, "Mine Master," into her ear.
"What is this?"
Was the very exclamation that broke everything. Voti threw my bedroom door open, discovering me and my dancer still in our undergarments. Ida was quick to try and cover up, but my instinct was to prepare for a hit to the face. Suddenly, he grabbed her by the hair, prying her from my arms and away from my bed as he hissed,
"Two whores fondling each other."
Ida screamed out in pain, and I desperately reached for her, knowing this was not her fault but my own. He was hurting her to hurt me. Even though I told myself I did not love the silly girl, I was still crying out for her and begged.
"No, let her go. It's me you're upset with."
He looked straight at me and replied,
"You're both coming with me. I have a lesson to teach you."
Voti continued to drag Ida by the homemade leash, and I perilously followed. He brought us both to his office and threw down the maid alongside me to the ground. She, of course, cried out,
"Mistress Heidi!"
as to check on me. Some guests were still present, so they laughed and scoffed at our plight.
"Ah, Heidi,
Sir Myers began.
back for some more?"
Voti was quick to angrily inform.
I found these two playing man and woman.
Most of the men made crude noises and let out their boisterous and cruel laughter. Lord Gilmore, in particular, almost looked uncomfortable by this news. Voti went and retrieved something from his desk, and then was quick to make me stand up. He placed a hand on my shoulder like he was my puppeteer, and traced his other hand along my arm until he was able to place the object he held in my palm.
"Now, Heidi, if you want to play the role of a man, you know you must stick into the woman. In a place I'm quite confident you know very well."
The other man began snickering, and all I could do was let out a pitiful,
"Oh, God."
The item that was handed to me was none other than a knife. Voti meant for me to fuck Ida with a blade. He wanted me to stick a sharp tool into the poor girl's cock alley. As horrid as all this was, and I knew it to be, I also knew exactly what it was I must do. I readied the knife in my hand and approached Ida. She looked at me with such shock and concern. She began in an almost pleading voice.
"Mistress?"
I began to recite the words that were once said to me.
"It's either you or me, Ida."
However, their meaning was quite different, was being much too the same all at once.
"Please don't."
She didn't understand what I meant.
"I'd rather it be you than me."
If I didn't do this, then she would have to go through something far worse.
Mistress!
Such a swift movement. I pulled the sobbing girl into my arms and thrusted the cold steel instrument of pain in between her legs. I stuck it in a few times as fast as I could so I would purposely slip up and hit something vital from the outside like her gut. Of course she was screaming out in pain. As I held Ida close, I whispered in her ear, "The more you struggle, the faster you bleed. The faster you bleed, the sooner you can die. Struggle more. I hope to join you soon." Now, I could have done this without killing her, but I didn't intend to make her live through that or anything else anymore. This was a mercy killing. I watched her drop to the floor, and Volty came up from behind me, placing his hands on my shoulders while saying,
Very good, Heidi.
My thoughts had gone something like this for a moment.
I'm sorry, Ida. I'm sorry, Ida. I'm so fucking sorry. I'll avenge you.
And then realization struck.
I have the knife. Those fucking idiots. They gave me a fucking knife.
I immediately whirled around, escaping Volty's grasp and pointing my bloody blade in his rather annoyed yet calm face as I yelled,
Stay back! All of you! Don't touch me, I swear I'll...
Suddenly, a peeved grin grew cheek to cheek and Volty responded with a coy tone of voice.
Or you'll what? Stab me? Does that pathetic little knife really make you feel that empowered? I could still easily wrest this away from you, but even if you were able to successfully stab me, what then? You'll stab all the men in here? You'd be taken down before you could even stab me enough times to maim me.
I always hated admitting when he was right, so I knew I had to think fast to outwit him. Turning the dagger to my neck, I exclaimed,
You touch me, I'll jam this into my throat so fucking deep, there's no way you could resuscitate me.
Oh, go ahead. I'd probably be better off without such a rude, loudmouth, disobedient, destructive daughter anyway. But your hands are shaking so much, I think you're too much of a coward to do so. So let's add cowardness and lack of self-worth to the list of how pathetic and unbearable you are.
I was almost very shocked and taken aback by his words. Suddenly, one of his hands found its way over my hand, and the handle of my weapon.
But since you're struggling so much with it, I could always help give you that little push to make that first step into puncturing your throat.
My first thought was,
Oh God, I'm bleeding. He's actually shoving the knife into my throat, and it's already puncturing my skin. At this point, No, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. I didn't kill Ada just so I couldn't choose my own death. Fuck.
I loosened my grip on my tool, and so he did the same. The knife dropped to the floor, and Volty heaved out a sigh. Soon after, he struck me so hard I fell to the floor right next to Ida's corpse. As he watched, he said,
You're such a stupid girl.
But all I could let out was,
I'm sorry, Ida. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
and so on and so forth. Volty eventually walked me out and Mama approached me. She said something, but I can hardly recall what. All I knew is I killed someone. A precious someone. Taking a life was not as easy as I believed it would be. At least, not given the circumstances. I mean, do not get me wrong, it was easy, but somehow, it is all very hard to deal with. It was not an easy feeling. I feel sick to my stomach and absolutely disgusting. It's hard to believe that I could so easily have done that.
January 2nd, 1877. Grutish. There's a monster inside me. Or perhaps, plain and simple, I am a monster. Kyle, the right thing was to leave me and never come back. How cold and empty and dead I am. How easily I destroy. How quickly I take. I am vile and unworthy of you to even speak my name. However could you have thought me good at all? Why ever did you love me? I honestly have no clue how that was even possible. I know I loved, but I feel nothing now. It is all dead and hollow. I am crumbling and falling. What am I going to do? How can I live with myself? Au revoir, Heidi.